Dear friends, I'm going to be sharing with you a perspective of Africa that you may not know, because I'd like to invite you to see Africa's future. But before then, let me tell you a story that happened a few years ago. In Africa, when a woman gets married, the next thing people look out for is the midriff to see if it's going to be getting bigger and bigger. Nkiru had gotten married to Mr. Bantu. And after the first year, nothing happened. Her mother-in-law would visit, and the first place she looks at is that direction. And Nkiru would have to look for different means to divert her attention, hoping and praying that the next time her mother-in-law visits, something would have happened. And that was how the years went by. 5, 10, 15. Then, on the 21st year, one morning, Nkiru woke up and felt uneasy. And her husband, touched her tummy. The husband said, "Well, you're different." And they washed. Something had happened. A miracle had taken place. Nkiru was pregnant. So they lovingly nurtured that pregnancy for 9 months. Suddenly, one night, the birth pangs came. They descended. Nkiru was rushed to the local hospital because they lived in a community far away from the city. In that hospital, there was no electricity. But that didn't bother them, because you really don't need too much of electricity to give birth. The baby just comes out after the labor. But this baby will not come out. So the birth pangs went on and on all night into the next day. The doctor had to call Mr. Bantu. I said, "Mr. Bantu, you have to make a choice. Who do you want? If I bring out the baby alive, you may lose your wife. But I can find a way to preserve the life of your wife, but you may lose the baby." Nkiru overheard that, and she screamed from where she was writhing in pain. I said, "I want the baby, I want the baby." The doctor said, "Then, there's no electricity, I only have this lantern. I don't have painkillers or anything to put you to sleep. I may have to just cut you open, and we take our chances." She said, "I'm ready." They didn't even have a bed in that hospital. So it was on a bench. She lay down on the bench, and her husband, Mr. Bantu, held her. And the doctor carried out that bold operation. And the woman was saying, "I want the baby, I want the baby, I want the baby." And at last, there was that miraculous cry. The baby was born. But Nkiru had to go through that pain, and the doctor had to stitch her up crudely. But she bore the pain because she wanted the baby. Luckily and happily, they both survived. The mother survived. The baby survived. Those are the kind of heroic stories you find in Africa. It's a great continent. Yes, there are problems, but there are strong people who will not let the continent die, like Nkiru and her husband, and the doctor who would go all lengths to make sure that Africa lives. So now I would like to invite you to come with me and take a peep at Africa in year 2025. Just imagine, it is 5 a.m., November 24th, 2026. 2026 it was. Tano woke up in his home in Uzere, Nigeria. In the headline in the morning paper was, "The rush for Africa, the model continent." Indeed, this news was being published all over the world. On the internet, mobile phones, newspapers, television sets, Africa was indeed being besieged. Land, air, sea, routes were jammed as people of all color, languages, creeds sought to relocate to Africa. This was not surprising. Africa was the only continent where there was sufficient and organic food for everyone, decent homes, efficient and reliable infrastructure, honest and dedicated leaders, a continent of lush green forests, flowing clear rivers, blue skies, and clean air. And the atmosphere was saturated with music from birds, children's laughter, and the palm trees were swaying in rhythm to the cool breeze. No one could believe that only 15 years ago, this same continent was the wretched of the earth, where diseases, poverty, corruption, hunger, and war were rampant. Rumor has it that this transformation was brought about by a small group of young men and women who, through the sustainability dream, rediscovered the principles that gave birth to the rich culture and values of Africa of the long-forgotten past. They remembered the old African adage that home is where life is found in all its fullness. The African child has only to take a few steps in his village to visit several who can substitute for his father, mother, brothers, sisters, and they will treat him accordingly. Thus, the child has many homes in his village, and he is simultaneously giver and receiver of widespread attention. This extended family system, widely practiced in Africa, was one in which everybody was linked with all the other members through a complex network of spiritual relationship into a kind of mystical body. Consequently, it was not just being that the African values, it was being with others or being rooted in kinship. That was an equally important existential characteristics of the African. He was never isolated, since several persons were assimilated into one parental role. His father, his mother's sisters into the role of mother, his patrilineal uncle's daughter into the role of sister. Thus, life was not just about me, but about us. Not my well-being, but our well-being. And so, the revival of this Africa that reflected the sustainability dream of respect and care of the community of life, ecological integrity, universal human rights, respect for diversity, economic justice, democracy, and a culture of peace began. This small band of men and women took their message to the length and breadth of Africa, reaching out to young and old, rich and poor, living by example, refusing to give up, winning disciples in the ivory towers, marketplaces, churches, mosques, shrines, sports fields, schools, social gatherings, farms, streets, everywhere. They taught people to rediscover their God-given wisdom and wealth in themselves, and to continue and contribute to that, a willingness to create a better world. They taught people to reject the lie of poverty. You could hear their heart-rending but inspiring song, rising from the bowels of the earth, calling on African leaders, pleading with African people, resist corruption, resist tribalism. Let us choose to trust each other. Stop sowing seeds of strife, dissension, and division. Set up structures that promote accountability. Set up political structures that serve the people, not those which feed upon the people. Don't crave goods you cannot produce. Don't produce waste you cannot clean up. Don't accommodate politicians who go a borrowing to spend the monies on luxuries from nations afar off, or lodge the monies in accounts in creditor nations. These self-acclaimed saviors are nothing but deceivers and rogues. They feed themselves fat in parliament and starve a whole generation and strip the future bare. Africa, rid yourself of such leaders. Leaders who look for easy routes to power and riches, leaving their constituencies to wallow in poverty and disease. They are like diseased trees to be cut down and burned. He who is not willing to serve without free cars, houses, and luxury goods should not stand to be voted, nor be voted for. It is time to practice some appetite-denying discipline. The leadership of a nation determines the direction of that nation. Africa, you must dance to a new tune. Africa, you must break away from the dependency syndrome. You are too richly endowed to beg. Open your eyes and see. See your rich human resources, abundant natural resources, waiting to be usefully tapped and managed for present and future generations. Africa, it is time to throw away the yoke of slavery. It is time to sing a new song, the song of true freedom and prosperity. It is time to dance to a new tune, the dance of joy and justice. This is a time for freedom. Africa, you are too blessed to be cursed. Africa, you are too blessed to die. There is success in your color. There is success in your diversity. There is success in your history. There is success in your future. Choose to live and not die. This is a choice you alone can make. It is time to endure birth pains like in Kiru, for that is the cost of renaissance. Africa, learn to create value with little. Step forward and change your world. Step forward and rekindle the spirit of freedom. Turn the music on and let the world hear the beat of the African drums. The music of the African soul. Africa, you must make your renaissance happen. You and nobody else. You must want it badly enough to make it happen. Remember, it is people who transform nations and continents. Not gold, not diamonds or oil. So let us become hungry for this change. Let us be honest for this change. Let us be committed to the change. Let us dare to trust one another. Let us choose to succeed and build together this great continent of Africa. Change will happen when we choose to make the change, for we make our choices and our choices make us. Let us invest in our people. Transformed people can indeed transform the world. Let us mobilize institutions everywhere and invest in our people so that we can reach a consensus for action. The crazy song of underdevelopment, poverty, ecological degradation, disease, corruption, and so on in Africa must stop. Africa is an opportunity to end poverty forever and ever. Africa is an opportunity to hold back the desert. Africa is an opportunity to have clean running streams. Africa is an opportunity for good governance. Africa is an opportunity for technological advancement. Africa is an opportunity for innovation and creativity. Project Africa is possible. Project Africa can be accomplished. And now is a time. And we are the generation. Those were the words of the song they sang, with their voices and with their hearts, with their hands and with their minds, with their feet and with their strength. Far and wide, their voices rang. Africa's River Nile is generally regarded to be the longest river in the world. This grand river of Africa owes its world-class status to the numerous tributaries that feed it from Africa's Great Lakes. But for these small, ferocious tributaries, River Nile will be left bereft of its massive size and flow. Like the Nile, this haunting song continued to flow, having unintended consequences, ripples of action that grew in intensity and ferocity, cascading through all sectors: governance, education, health, infrastructure, transportation, judiciary, ripples of action jolting the length and breadth of Africa. These ripples, in turn, contributing to the river of sustainability that must continue to flow all over Africa and beyond, for livelihoods to be enhanced and effective and transparent governance of man and environment alike, giving birth to the long-desired African renaissance. These men and women, Africa's own teachers, professionals, market women, youths, friends from abroad, white and black, men and women, rich and not so rich, they shared resources, encouraged each other, and by shared doggedness and great sacrifice reached a critical mass. And just like a dream, the structures of nepotism, greed came tumbling down, giving way to a completely new world, a completely new continent, a continent of rivers and joy and equity and goodness. This indeed is the expression of the real Africa, an Africa that is affluent, frugal, in right relationship with the environment, intergenerational in outlook, communal and adaptive. What a continent, what a heritage. Africa, my Africa, praise God, you made it. Yes, you made it. You made it. You made it. Africa made it.